Alright guys, today I'll be teaching you how to properly launch a Beyblade. I'm going to start out by using the Proto Launcher, and we'll be using the comic manga, you know what I mean, Valkyrie. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead with your launcher hold. You want to hold the main launcher in your weakest hand of your, because you want to pull the ripcord with your dominant hand. If you're ambidextrous, that doesn't matter, as long as you're able to hold the launcher still. I still recommend using right hand if you're ambidextrous, because usually your right hand is the strongest one, even if you're ambidextrous. Of course, you gotta put the Beyblade on the launcher correctly. Let's go ahead and set up my recording stand for that. And I can show you how to, if you don't know how, I can show you how to do that. I like say skip ahead maybe 10 seconds in a moment if you already know how to do that. But just in case, let's go ahead and set up my recording stand. Sometimes the recording stand gives me more trouble than it's worth. Anyway, so we hold it, you put it on, try not to click it. Just you want to twist it to the point where the gears stop turning. That's tight enough. And then when you're ready to launch, you launch. Of course, sometimes it doesn't launch. You want to try to move it as little as possible, but a small downward movement like that is fine, but you don't want it to be too much. It's just enough to shake it off the launcher usually. 3, 2, 1, let it rip. Like that. Usually pushing downwards is usually your best bet when you're launching, but you want to keep it level to stadium if you, as best you can. Of course, there are different launches. You can tilt it forward for a rush launch for heavy attacks. You can tilt it different ways for just getting the Beyblade straight to the center. But, of course, I'm just teaching you how to launch it for beginners. Before you get into your own launcher techniques that you make up for yourself, for example, I myself use this setup. I have 2 turbo launchers and 1 switch strike launcher. I use the switch strike launcher for the Beyblade, and I create my own launch where I just cord it out as I'm going down, and just in a downward push. It's what I call a hammer launch or a slam launch, which just basically gives the Beyblade more downforce. It works best with those with spring in the drivers because it reduces the damage to the performance tip, of course, but it's great for attack types, downforce, or stamina types. Also works if you put up a little bit higher if you want to snipe your opponent's Beyblade, just so you know. But again, when you're launching Beyblade, if you have a grip, you hold out your hand onto the grip. Of course, I'm using Hasbro parts. There will be Takara Beyblades. So some of them will have you can get grip hand grip attachments, or you can just use the launcher itself, in which case you just hold it up on the launcher and pull the ripcord. That's just basically the basic principle of it. And 3, 2, 1, let it rip. Like that. You want to give it just that slight downward force when launching it. You want to try and move it as little as possible, but giving it downward force, just a slight bit, not too much. Try to do it unconsciously. So basically, your just main goal is to hold the launcher still. You can help by pulling down on the ripcord when you pull it out, and that should be just enough to get your Beyblade off the launcher and into the stadium as soon as you pull out the full ripcord. Remember, when launching, pull out the full ripcord. Or if you have a string launcher, pull out the string to either not all the way because you don't want to risk breaking it, but to near all the way. So you want to get a feel for the string launcher first, pulling it out till you can't pull it out no more. And then you want to stop right before that so that you risk doing damage to your Beyblade launcher. I'm getting, there are different Beyblade launchers, different customizations for some. In the new Dynamite Battle series, where we see Dynamite Bays like Vanished Fafnir, which is a pretty cool Beyblade. There are different launcher customizations. There's a power core that just came out, which is the first customization you'll be able to get for the launcher. which basically just gives it more rotation, which gives the Beyblade more spin power, which gives it more attack power on that, but it could also risk making it more burstable with heavy attacks. There's different strategies to Beyblade as you go out with it. Go full on out with your designs and whatnot for your launcher. Remember, try to design your launcher to help best support you. I have a grip on mine because I prefer to have a grip when I launch. It's just the way I pull my Beyblades, and you can pull it forward a little bit too when you're launching if you feel like it, but not too much. It can get it straight to the center if you want it like that. Depends on how big your stadium is, of course, as well. You want to account for the size of the stadium. Most of them have this the basic stadium, which is like B30 something stadium. That is just the basic Takaratomi one. Hasbro, they can have any Hasbro stadium, of course. That's just the basics of how to Beyblade. And of course, there's also Beyblade customization. Let's get into that. You want to let's go ahead and move it back down to the stadium. Let's pull it back up. So, there are different Beyblades, of course. For example, there are different generations, like Beyblade Burst Dynamite Battle, Beyblade Burst Sparking, or also there's different brands, the different version of Beyblade Burst Sparking, Beyblade Burst Surge. There's also GT, or Rise, or Hypersphere. There's Turbo, which has bays like this one, where the tip rises to give it more attack power. So here it is in defensive mode and attack mode. Some of them have already just attack tips as is, or stamina tips as is. It just basically gives it a flatter performance tip for more attack. And of course, there's also different middles. In Sparking, they have a chassis system where you can get either a single chassis or double chassis on certain bays. Single chassis allows you to still have a middle disc, while a double chassis basically just takes away the disc and is equal to basically a disc as is. So, and also there's drivers. There's normal drivers like this one right here, which is a guard, and there's dash drivers like Unite Dash, which basically has a golden spring for the locking mechanism, which gives it more power and strength. And of course, there's also, you want to customize your beta to make it look cool, so you want to find the coolest parts possible, but you also want to strategically find parts as well. For example, let's make a good combo, right? Great attack combo as is. I mean, it's not the best top tier one, but it's basically a good one right now. It still is pretty good. It has some good, minor attack power. It's better than the Rage stock combo. It gives it just a little tad more attack power when it's in there. It starts with stamina, but it gives it some heavy attack when it's knocked off balance. Using the rubber from Unite Dash, the Beyblade can just go straight in for the attack and hammer any Beyblade it wants with its raging upper attack, which knocks its opponents back. Of course, there's also Beyblades that come with upgrades, like there's the God Valkyrie, aka Genesis Valkyrie, which gets the Strike chip, which is actually the God chip in the normal anime, in the Japanese anime, which is actually removable. You have to buy an attachment for it. Of course, there's also Dynamite Belial, which comes with attachments, different gear upgrades. For example, this is the F gear, which is the one that's available right now. There's going to be an F gear, which basically turns the driver into a dash driver, as is, by putting a more stamina enabling, but also more attack enabling driver attachment piece to the driver. It will have better life after death, but it will also enable the rubber attack pieces here, the rubber red ring here, to be activated more in the stadium. There are different strategies for different Beyblades. That's just... I went off on a rant there. Of course, There's also different launchers, as it is. There's different launcher grips, different launcher attachments, which can upgrade your performance. And of course, there are so many different. Hasbro and Takara are the two main ones, which I'd recommend using. Of course, there are some people who make their own Beyblades, like Flame, and there are other ones like that. Do not buy Flame or any off-brand Beyblades, because you don't want to risk it having lead. Because some Beyblades rip-offs come with lead, and it can be harmful to your children or even yourself. If you see, do not buy off of Wish.com. You could risk getting a lead-based Beyblade. I mean, I got a GoPro off of Wish.com because it was just free. They do that to you if you sign up. I only logged on just so I could get the GoPro deal, because I needed a GoPro for recording sometimes, and I even though I barely use it, I mainly use it for taking pictures. And of course, you want to use proper stores. I'll link some good Beyblade stores with good deals. Of course, take them with a grain of salt. There's Hobby Digi, which is Hong Kong, which basically it just gets some early, but it's in China, so I wouldn't recommend it, because again, it's a good way to if you get anything from Hong Kong, make sure to spray it down first with disinfectant. Always best case scenario, do that before you get it through shipping, or once you get home from shipping. Always spray down the boxes with disinfectant, just in case. You never know if you buy from the Hong Kong one, you'll get diseases and whatnot. You don't want to risk starting another pandemic, you know? And of course, there's Mall of Toys, which is a really good dealership for it. You can get them from a cheaper price usually. And there's also Beyblade YouTubers who have their own stores with Beyblades. Of course, those can be a little bit more expensive, but it's a good way to support your favorite creators. I myself eventually maybe start getting a Beyblade store, for all you know. Once I start bulk ordering, I may set some up for selling, because, of course, as a Beyblade collector, if I have multiple, I can sell those multiples if I want to. And then, of course, there's also some accountability into your Beyblade strength you want to put into giving. If the Beyblade performance tip is designed to break, you don't want it to break, don't use that performance tip too often. If it's not designed to break, but it can easily break, try your best not to use it. This is a turbo tip that came on this one right here. I don't remember what it's called. It's like I don't know, Diomedes. I don't remember what it was. And it's like the defense performance tip. It just broke because someone launched it off of it with extreme force, off of a railing from one of my brother's birthday parties. And of course, again, you want to make sure you keep them safe. You want to make sure you watch your Beyblades if you lend it to a friend, which I don't recommend doing too often. If you want to start your own Beyblade club, make sure you have a good supply of stadiums and Beyblades to share for practicing. And also make sure you have a list of Beyblades keep a list of the Beyblades you bring, so that you can always check it off your list beforehand before you go. And of course, there's also professional competitions that can be held all around the world using the World Beyblade Organization app. There's just so many stuff you can go into. World Beyblade Organization is just where you can find different competitive battles, where it's usually Hasbro to Takara. It can be different generations. There's Beyblade Burst Metal, Beyblade Burst Metal Fusion, and Metal Masters, of course. There's Beyblade Burst and all that. There's Beyblade itself and Beyblade with the heavy metal system. You want to also use proper launcher for the proper Beyblade, because they have different designs for different launcher designs for the different Beyblades sometimes, for different generations. There's so much stuff, but I think that's as simple as I can get on with it before going over 15 minutes. And I'll see you guys in the next one, actually. I will hopefully talk to you next time soon. And remember, until next time, let it rip.